and welcome back to the North Star Takes podcast with Bailey Pulicki and Jacob Liberta. You can find all our videos here on our YouTube channel. Feel free to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram as well. Today we'll be discussing the Minnesota Wild offseason review so far. It hasn't been a super exciting offseason by any means, but the Wild got a big domino out of the way the other day here with Kevin Fiala agreeing to a one-year deal before they hit arbitration. So they got Fiala for a year at $5.1 million, and that's going to make him a restricted free agent again next offseason, where he's probably going to want a big payday if he has another good season. So it's kind of nice to get that one out of the way. It's a little unfortunate that they weren't able to work towards a longer-term contract. But obviously the big story here is, are they going to be able to get Kirill Kaprizov back? He's a restricted free agent, but he's threatened to go play in Russia. Apparently Russia's got the Moscow team in Russia has a contract written up for him already if he's ready to sign it. So
Corruption.
It's just his agent playing the game, I think. I don't think he'd go back to the KHL after a great year in his rookie year in the NHL. So, but yeah, it's kind of an interesting situation because obviously it's got a lot of Wild fans on the edge of their seat, kind of wondering what's going to happen here. Because if you lose a guy like that, the interest in this team is just going to plummet.
Oh, yeah, easily. I mean, this is priority one, and it's not even close to anything else this offseason, because if we don't get Kaprizov back in the fold, the rest of the stuff we're doing right now doesn't even matter.
It's meaningless, yeah.
Because our team won't compete without him. So I think we have to find a way to negotiate with him, hopefully get a long-term contract, but at least just get him back in the building, because we need that for probably team morale and then just like team success. So I think that's huge. And then, like you mentioned, though, at the top of this, that bringing Fiala back was an important thing to do as well. Is probably the next priority after Kaprizov, but again, a little bit lower down the list because Kaprizov just is so important. But I think with Fiala, he's a pillar of this franchise now, and I think get him at a $5.1 million price tag, I'd say that's pretty modest for him, really, because I think he's a fantastic player. He's easily a great goal scorer for this team. He's going to be one of the guys scoring the most points. So I mean that's a big thing, and especially just basically building up a roster too, or keeping a roster intact, I should say, that'll like entice Kaprizov and not really push him out the door for some reason. So I think that was important, but it all ties back to Kaprizov, I guess.
It really does. I mean, he is the center of this team. Like, everything revolves around him, and rightfully so. I think he's a top 10 player for sure in the NHL. He's a fantastic talent, and you can't afford to make a guy like that angry.
No.
So kind of along the lines of that, though, the Wild haven't really gone out and got that true number one center. And I know it's been difficult because there really isn't a lot of guys available. Jack Eichel still obviously is out there, but the longer this has gone on, he still hasn't gotten his neck surgery. Buffalo's trying to play hardball, even though nobody's really interested in what they're wanting. So it's kind of interesting. I think the progress of Marco Rossi coming back from his COVID scare from a year ago, I think that's going to be super important to this team. If he can come into camp, look really good, look ready to play, I think that's going to be a massive advantage for the Wild, because I think he can be your top line center right off the bat. He's that talented.
Wow.
Yeah, I really do.
Even over Eck, huh?
Yeah, I think they're going to keep that Eck, Foligno, Greenway line together.
Just make that the second line?
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's like by default just going to be like the second line, which is fine.
Yeah. It's a solid line.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of our best line. I mean, it's arguably our best line, just super consistent, gritty.
Yep. But also score.
Yes. Rossi apparently is going to play in the Olympic qualifiers for his home country of Austria, so that's encouraging. That means that conditioning-wise, I think he's getting right back into it.
Trending in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. So if they can get him into camp and he's looking good and he can be their top-line center, I think that changes a lot of things for the outlook of this team.
Absolutely. I think Marco Rossi could be the X factor of the season, potentially, like obviously beyond bringing Kaprizov back again. But I think with Rossi, having that true number one center could change the whole complexion of this team, and now how far we think we can go in the playoffs and what the ceiling really is. So I think that's going to be huge for us. Whether that's not just this year either, it's going beyond this year into the future, the next 5. So I think having Rossi just getting acclimated with the NHL game, getting better and better as the season goes on. So hopefully we make a nice playoff push, and then once we're in, make some noise. But I think, like you said, Rossi, it's good to hear that he's playing these Olympic qualifiers. So then you just know he's getting ready to go, and hopefully his play is just going to pick up right where he left off when we took him in the top 10 of the draft. So I think that's as important as almost anything. So but even if he's not necessarily the first line center right away, I think that's okay too, as long as he's just a nice key contributor. Looks like he's solid and growing as a player. So.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think if you can get him, Kaprizov just needs another extremely talented player on his line because he's a very good passer, and he kind of needs someone to put home some of these passes that he's made.
Yeah, not Victor Rask.
Victor Rask is out here fanning on pucks in front of the net constantly. And by Rask's standards, he had a pretty good season, but he shouldn't have been playing on the top line with Kaprizov and Zuccarello, who those two really have a good connection. So if you can throw a center in there with speed like Rossi,
that can have a lot of points.
Yes, that could be a very good line. I mean, this Kaprizov kind of helped Zuccarello with his resurgence of his career because if you remember the first year of Zuccarello,
he was washed, absolutely washed.
He was not very good for us. So, and then he got hurt. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting though. As for other signings, I mean, it's really just been depth. They signed Alex Goligoski, who's in his 30s.
Yes.
Former Gopher.
Oh, I'm getting a jersey right now.
Dmitry Kulikov, John Merrill. These are all like depth signings on defense. They're going to kind of push for Kalen Addison. I think they're going to want him to play, but they're going to have some competition for him.
Yep.
So nothing super flashy on defense, which is to be expected.
Yeah, but you just need these guys to round out a roster.
Yes.
Because obviously you can't just have absolute scrubs at the bottom. So, I mean, this is important to do, even though it's like really flying under the radar and these guys aren't great, but they're going to round out this roster fine and create competition, like you said, with Addison and others. So
yeah, and then you'll be bringing back Talbot and Kakinen, who are both two good goalies. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think really the only like wild card of what's left here is getting Kaprizov's deal. He'll be back. It's a matter of how many years it'll be. I'm hoping it'll be in the 4 to 5 range. I could see it being in the 3-year range as well. I know his agent wants him to hit big time free agency while he's still in his prime. So other than that, though, it's just going to be kind of what's the progress of Marco Rossi and if he can step right in and be a contributing center for this team.
Yes, absolutely, and just see how he can gel with our other core pieces, like you mentioned with Kaprizov or Fiala, all these guys that you envision growing together as this team really turns into a serious potential cup contender. So I think like you hit the nail on the head there. It's just this guy's evolution this season and beyond.
Yeah, and they're going to have training camp starting up within a month or so here. So
a lot more to talk about coming soon.
Yeah, a lot's gonna happen coming up here. So, but that's going to do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Be sure to hit that like button and stay tuned for more content by subscribing as well. And give us a follow on Instagram and Twitter if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.